42, 41. I just love you guys, and I appreciate you being here for us, and I appreciate you doing the things that you're doing, and I appreciate you building this. Please like this episode, as well as every other episode you do enjoy going on right now that I'm very excited about. And I see Doge, and I see the realignment of the educational system coming together for a real unique opportunity that we haven't had in a long time. And that's exciting more and more each day. It all comes back to coming back to yourself, taking your, you have three brains, right? You have the brain of the head, you have the brain of the heart, and you have the brain of the gut, gut instinct, right? I would love to really be able to get into some comfortable situations where we can start feeding back into the community that we haven't had in a long time. If we take the right approach, we have the ability to really dramatically affect not only the children growth, we could start turning revenues and rolling them into, for instance, here in this small town, seeing what kind of effects we have. We have coming up very shortly, as much as we should. And I think this is probably the strongest because it has emotion as well. And then those two signal to the brain to send out the chemicals that do the work that needs to be done according to whatever I have already talked a little bit about it with Emma on Emma Lynn and Grandpa Rodd. All right, let's get into this one. I've been really excited about this today, and I think you'll understand why here shortly. And it's because today's conversation, this is one of those episodes that hits a little different, right? We've done almost 600 episodes now in the last year and a half, so I mean that directly when I say that. We talk a lot on this show about leadership. We talk a lot about systems. And we talk about building something real. But every once in a while, you sit down with someone who has actually lived it under pressure. And I'm not saying theory, and I certainly don't mean through books. It's definitely not social media clips, but pressure. Today, that's exactly where we're going. We've got Darren Topkins joining us today. Army veteran, thank you very much for your service, by the way. I forgot to mention that. Oil and gas operations, which I live in the middle of right now. Now CEO of Vader Ray Companies and the creator of Headlock Hot Sauce, which, by the way, I love that mindset behind that brand because what connects all of it is discipline, execution, and standards. And I'll tell you something right now. That's something I think the great middle class, the real builders of this country, are craving more than ever. Not more noise, not more hype, but real conversations about what it actually takes to lead people, what it actually takes to build a team, what it actually takes to execute when things get hard. Because you know what? Let's be honest. I've been here. It's easy to talk leadership when everything's going right. Been there. It's a whole lot different game when things are breaking, when timelines are tight. Been there. When people are depending on you. When the margin for error is gone. That's where leadership shows up. And that's where Darren's story gets really interesting. From the Army to high stakes operational environments in gas and oil. Believe me, that's high stakes. It really is. To building a recruiting and workforce company serving engineering and construction companies. He's been in environments where performance matters, accountability matters, and excuses, you know what? They don't carry a lot of weight. And I think this is going to be a powerful conversation because we're going to get into something that doesn't get talked about enough. Hiring for character. Stand on that for a minute. Think about this. Hold on. Take a breath. We've already got a bunch of people coming in. Get your coffee. Listen to this. Hiring for character. I've never heard that before. but it's huge. Building teams that actually perform, creating cultures where people show up, do the work, and execute. Not because they're motivated, here's the key, but because that's the standard. And if you're running a business, if you're leading a team, if you're trying to step into leadership, this is one of those episodes you need to lean into. And as always, if you're just finding us for the first time, this is Insights and Straight Talk. We're building a platform. We're building a platform and a movement around real conversations for the great middle class, people building businesses, leading teams, raising families, trying to make sense of a world that's moving so very fast. We're live on YouTube at Rodd Duff 1939. We've got our Substack community growing like crazy every week, and literally at this point right now, every day. And this whole thing ties into something much bigger. The conversations we're having, the people we're bringing onto the show, the ideas being put out there, they matter. So do me a favor right now, before we even start, hit subscribe, share this with somebody who leads a team, and stick with this conversation all the way through, because this one's about execution. All right, let's bring him in. Darren Topkins, how are you, my friend? Oh, you did it on me. There you go. This is the coolest picture in the world, isn't it? That is awesome, dude. How is life for you these? Whoops, did I?
Oh my God! There we go.
That was not.
That's my debut. I know it's not as cool. I'm not as cool as that. Yeah.
That is very cool. You're very cool as well, man. I'm glad to have you here. Do you want me to just call you D, or did you just put D up there for that?
Everybody calls me D. Yeah, from
your D.
Kids up
all right.
Up. Yeah.
All right, everybody. In the background is the badass Batman, and standing in front of him is the very famous and my new hero, my best friend, D. How you be, D?
Doing great, Rod, man. We're happy to be here. Happy we got this going. And yeah, love your background as well. That is beautiful where you are.
This is the Mangum City Library. If you notice their emblems up in the corner,
Cool.
They're one of our sponsors. And the reason we do this, you see this chair right here? Thank you for opening up. I'm going to give a little self-plug about a couple of things.
Please do. Yes, please do.
See that chair right there? It's a representation for when the first teenagers or young adults start coming in live to the show, because we do a thing called Regeneration School Project, where we're building a pilot program here in rural America in Mangum. I just moved here from Chicago 5 months ago, but I'm doing it on purpose for this show. And in that show, wow, we've already got questions coming in. Oh my God, that was fast. But anyway, yeah, they're fired up. We've got over 100 people on the show right now, and they've only listened to me. Wait till they start hearing you. But we do Voices at the Table. We do Regeneration School Project. Those are tied together, and that's now coming out into a what's called Mangum 2030 revitalization of rural America. With the digital world and with the way things are, people don't have to leave rural America anymore, but they do need to learn how to go leadership. How did you start on this journey?
I mean, leadership in all its forms, comes from within, comes from the self, right? And we always
100%.
We always talk about authentic self. My leadership style is different from everybody else, and it's pretty amazing. Now, I will say I got my cut my chops in the U.S. Army. I was in for 13 years total.
Thank you again. By the way, thank you again for your service. My dad was a lifetime Marine, and my youngest son is Army. He's over in Leavenworth. He's a military police, and one of my middles is a police.
Well, you're gonna love that because I was military police also. That was my first. Yeah, 95.
Oh, well, I guarantee you, Matt. Hey, give a shout out to Matt Rodarty. That's producer Barbie's son. I raised him, but I was part of it.
Congrats on being an MP. I spent 5 years in the active duty as military police, deployed all over. And yeah, that's how I got. In fact, I chose that MOS solely because my great uncles who were had their brassards in the portraits, and I thought they looked like the biggest studs of all time. So Thought I could do a lot with it, and I did. But went from there
Hey, can I just add before you start your story? This is not a competition, I proud you, but a little bit of a proud moment here. Last week, producer Barbie came on, and he's at Leavenworth right now, right? I'm in Oklahoma, and producer Barbie's out in California. But his MOS is now changing. He's being transferred to Virginia. He's learning to work with the federal government. Okay. There's some sort, I forgot what it's called, but the last guest that was asking about it, he knew what it was, but it's some sort of very cool thing. At 21, he's already developing that career. So he's learning some leadership as well along the way.
Yeah. And I don't know what his enlistment term is. Back then when I was in, it was 5 years minimum. Yeah. So I came out and went into the reserves, became an NCO, a sergeant, then took the RTC scholarship at the ripe old age of 30. And
wow.
Graduated at 30 as a lieutenant in aviation. Never went to flight school, but I got a career offer in oil and gas, and they just let me go. So that's how I kicked it. But I always start off with leadership conversations of the transition from being in the military full time to going into your first professional job.
Absolutely.
The hardest part for me, because in the military, when you're a leader, you just tell people how badly they suck and make them do push-ups, and then you berate them until they don't do bad anymore, right? That was back then. You can't really do that in the civilian world because HR will be on your butt really quick. And that was kind of a little bit of a tweak of attitude adjustment, as they used to call it, and learning how to deal with people that, one wrong word, man, and you could be in a lot of trouble. But we still support our military big time. We always have. And there's a lot of new transition programs like you're undergoing right now, where you can move from the military sector to the private sector and vice versa. I mean, they're hiring CEOs and whatnot and giving them commissions to lead commands.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was. A bunch of tech guys got commissioned as lieutenant colonels and in cyber stuff. So the people
that makes sense.
Be able to tell us what they are. I don't have it in front of me, but but in the reserves.
Can I ask you something while you're talking about this? We talk a lot about leadership on the show. We also have a number of military, current and past military on the show quite a bit. Obviously, a big part of the great middle class. But one thing we talk about, and it's interesting how your started and coming from the military, which I highly recommend. I didn't do it. I chickened out. But at the end of the day, looking back on life and looking at my family members and the development and a lot of people I know, the best place to start learning leadership in life is by probably the best organization forget about what they do. Okay, I'm sorry. War's war. War sucks, but it is what it is. But as an operation, as a functional operation, the military, since Kaizen back in whenever they did that in the 70s and 80s, when they learned Kaizen and they brought that back, the military is probably one of the best leadership places. And yes, it used to be kick your ass, but it's getting more and more and more sophisticated. Is that not a great place to learn how to get through things as well as lead people?
Even when you're a private, you're learning to do things in order, which is project management. And exactly. That is you do backwards planning for everything. That's your day, your mission, whatever it is. And I'm a poster child of somebody that took advantage of that, because I grew up very poor in a small town in Appalachia, Virginia. The closest thing is Virginia Tech. That's the only thing people know about the area. And parents were both college graduates. I did get accepted to college, but I knew I would flunk out immediately. And I needed that discipline and that leadership training and all that. And so I took full advantage of it. And that's something I preach nowadays. If your life just sucks, you can't get out of delivering pizzas or whatever the hell, and you can do a few push-ups and you're not covered in head to toe in tattoos, that is one of the last remaining opportunities you have to go make something of yourself with just go show up.
Good point.
You need to change your life. They'll do it overnight,
Excellent point. And it's amazing, because especially in the younger days, let's face it, men in particular, women as well, but men more so. There's a point in time where you almost need that just to transition, depending on what your parents, what what skills they passed on along to you or not. Young men really, and I'm not saying men versus women. I'm a man, so
Yeah.
I know more about that. Although my granddaughters are all daughters, which is honestly, granddaughters are better than sons to have.
I have
Let me tell you
daughters.
that.
I have 2 daughters that are very young, 5 and
Aren't
8.
they amazing?
Mhm.
Aren't they? I raised 5 boys, so it was all testosterone all the time. I learned to be a good carpenter only because I had to fix holes in the walls all the time from
Okay,
asses.
so I'm going to interject. So one of my favorite comics
Please.
is Louis C.K. And he said, when you have boys, they just do physical damage to your life that you can put dollar signs to. When you have
Oh,
girls,
okay.
it's all mental and emotional damage, Yeah.
Yeah, that and I assume they have you wrapped. The girls have you wrapped around their little.
It's
Their
still
little
good
fingers.
cop, bad cop, drill sergeant for me. I take them to school.
Okay, that's true. That's true.
Get your shit together. At this time, we're leaving, where
That's
my
true.
wife is the one who kind of massages the day-to-day stuff.
Okay. I guess that does change a little bit. I never had girls, so I never had that argument to make. By the way, I've never seen this before. Before I even finished my monologue, you see one of the things I threw up on the.
Yeah.
Can you read that out loud to me? That's another. It looks like another show of some sort.
Let me see here. I see.
The one on the stage, on the screen, the big one.
I
Right
see
here.
what
Right
happens. Oh, wait, hey, look forward to listening to Darren Adventures with. Yeah, I don't know what that is.
I don't either, but I'm telling you right now, your name is splattered all over these. Apparently, people are coming on from other places that they know you. Is all I got to guess because.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
I love. Look at this.
Sorry, yeah. We'll get to that too.
Let me throw in one more. This is what I came on out of the first place I looked at the note. These were the first 5 comments. This was even before I finished the monologue. Hey, Darren, that never happens. Usually people wait a little while. They're jumping up. We haven't even got to your life. We haven't even really got into it. There's 500 people on the show right now.
Well, Seinfeld said you got to leave on a high, so I guess we can wrap it up right now, right?
I guess we better be done. Let's finish right now. Hey, everybody, it's been a great show. Thank you for all your questions, Darren. We're gonna go eat some hot sauce. Go on with your story, Darren. I'll get back to this. But
these people distracted me, man. I don't even know what are we doing? Yeah.
Well, so you were getting into, and we took some sidetracks, which you'll notice we'll do during the show periodically. Little ADHD working here, but the audience likes it. It keeps them leaning in. There's no questions. These are all comments. But you were talking about that transition coming out of, and actually people are moving from civilian life into military. So we were kind of at that moment. I took you down a rabbit hole.
No. It's ironic you said that because I think it was just yesterday, day before, they raised the recruitment age to 42, which I thought is insane. Yeah. Ooh. And they're dropping some marijuana. They're dropping some drug charges that are.
Oh, so if you have certain things that you could still get in, kind of
like misdemeanors and stuff like
something's
that.
Something's happening, isn't it, dude?
Yeah. You better believe it.
Something's happening.
Lobster to folks that something's happening. Yeah.
Yeah. It's well, and honestly, I mean, that's a whole political side that we can or can't get into. I don't know if that's anything to do with what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I think there's more to that than what we all talk about. And I just wish more people would listen to more things than just making up your mind about trying to make somebody look bad and trying to make and instead making the country look better. So I appreciate your service, and at the end of the day, done subscribing. That's where we were. That's where we were talking at the time. So when we were talking about that, let's continue that transition out of the Army into leadership, and then let's go down your path, because you've got an amazing and important story as you can tell, everybody on this show. I mean, they're just like, talk, dude. Tell me what to do.
Yeah. So transition. I got a job offer from Sunoco Logistics, oil and gas company, which actually took me to Tulsa. I was there for 6 months, and then they moved us to Houston. So I was just in Tulsa last year. We did a full auto machine gun shoot, because you can still do that up there. And I have a couple of friends that are still local. But I did a lot of animal rescue and exotic wildlife rehab, because that's always been part of my journey. But once we got to Houston, it's like, okay, Army offered me an out, kept my commission, didn't owe any money back, and got into like a mid-level energy support or engineering support job where I, all of a sudden had people working for me that didn't understand.
Oil and gas?
Yeah,
This was the oil and gas?
Yeah, in oil and gas. Didn't quite understand me a lot because so many old schoolers in Oklahoma, you used to be die for a job opening to happen, right?
Hell yeah.
Yeah, so I came in with some new ideas, new technology. My degree was in geographic information systems, a tech degree under geography.
Say that again. I didn't hear you. Geographic
information system, which is digital mapping, the early forms of digital mapping, how they create.
Oh, you mean that thing we see now in like geographics where they do the topography and you can see things under tree? Is that it or something different?
No, it's GIS, which is the digital mapping of places and things. Then you have
topography,
GPS, which is everybody knows GPS, and there's satellite positioning navigation for those things. Space Force operates.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, yeah. Space Force, love that.
Yeah. But yeah, I did it here in Houston, and everybody who's ever been in oil and gas knows this. No matter what your job is, you basically ride the wave of the price of a barrel of crude. When it's high, they invest in technology. They're hiring. They're booming. When it's low, they start laying people off. And I've had to deal with that so many times. Now, with those highs and lows, I have been hit up by a lot. I can cuss on this show, right?
Fuck yeah.
I have been hit up by so many.
Don't do it too much. Just sprinkle.
I have been hit on by so many shitty recruiters over my tenure here. I still get recruiting calls and emails every week for GIS PM jobs that I haven't done in 14 years. And when you go through crappy interviews with stupid recruiters who clearly have not done their homework on you because they're only thinking about getting paid by the client, it gets so frustrating. And that was kind of a early on, like, I think I could probably do this better.
Okay.
And then when, everybody knows we got hit by Hurricane Harvey back in 2017. A lot of people lost their jobs.
That was a big deal. That was a big deal.
Huge deal. I was like, what? I'm kind of done with the oil and gas thing. And then got into philanthropy, which, COVID hit, I'm using excuses, right? But in 2020 is when I started getting the mindset, I've got to go do my own thing. Because even though I had great bosses, I've had great leaders over the time. I've had really crappy leaders and bosses. Even the ones that were great, that mentored me, that did all the right things, I always hated working for them. There was something in my mindset where it's like, you got to go do your own thing, whether it's in philanthropy or technology or whatever it is, get out and do it yourself. And, that was like something that I had an idea for way back in 2017, 2018, but I just kept like coming up with excuses of not doing it, whether I wasn't going to have the paycheck anymore, didn't think I would be able to nail any clients, whatever that was. And finally, I was part of a networking group where somebody said, look, man, you need to set the date, don't deviate. And then I'm like, okay, that was like a little idiom that got in my head. I'm like, okay, yeah, I really need to figure this out quick. And I had actually started working as like a second in command of a boutique recruiting company where there was just the two of us coming out of COVID, and learned very quickly the ropes and learned that I could do better than a lot of people. And then, talked to my wife. I was very fortunate that I built up a client base where they were like, I kind of started dropping it. Like, I might be leaving and doing my own thing. And the clients all of a sudden were like, well, if you go, we're going to come with you. And that was the big,
that's
to go.
That's like, oh yeah.
Oh yeah. So Steffi's my wife. She's my CFO. She is the one who keeps money on track. So I said, okay, when can I stop this other bullshit and just go with the recruiting company? And she gave me a date, which was September. And once that hit, boom, go with it, and she still works full-time. She's actually a BP employee. Then, we were very fortunate that I did have clients that came with me because I have something that's very rare in entrepreneurship: no debt, zero. We bootstrapped everything and didn't need any loans or none of that stuff. So,
that is zero. Like that never happens.
It never happens.
Good job.
But we just have the right network and following and everything else that made it work. Now it comes with a lot of other problems because people that come in, they take million, $2 million loans, yeah, they can staff up and get moving, but you're going to be paying that back over a long period of time. So the buck stops with me. You've all heard that before. I'm always the point man. I don't care if it's a 2-man operation or major oil and gas client. I'm always the one you're going to be talking to first, because it is my name on the company. Now, Vader Ray is, those of you who are watching, yes, it is a Star Wars reference. My daughter's middle names are Josie Vader Topkins and Izzy Ray Topkins because we're a super fan pop culture family. So Vader Ray is how the name of the company came to be. And
I was wondering, that makes sense. So this is I'm sorry, I'm not as an expert on the trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a direct reference there.
Yes,
I know Vader.
Yep.
What's the Ray again?
Ray is the heroine for the last 3 movies.
Okay. I'm okay.
Now I'm not a fan of those movies, and this is a 100% true story. My wife had a C-section. We did IVF, and while we were going back and forth with the middle name, I wanted to go for Fett, for Boba Fett, or something like that. And we're in there, and she's done up, and they're cutting her open. And she's like, we need to figure this out now because the baby's coming, literally in the OR. And I look around like, ladies, anesthesiologists and nurses, raise your hand, Fett. Raise your hand, Ray. The Rays have it. That's what we're naming her.
Oh my God, how fun! Your wife's a badass, by the way.
She's a badass. She's 4'8", but a true badass.
Oh, love that. Those are the badass.
So, but yeah, I do what she tells me most.
Oh, so it's like this walk around, and she runs you around exactly where you need to be run around to, right?
For the most part, she's a great event planner, so I just kind of go along and do the damn thing.
Oh, yeah. She's an event planner.
No, I mean she's naturally good at that. She's just
naturally. She works. That's right.
VP, but yeah,
she works in the gas company. Yeah, but just I got you.
Yeah.
Our partners typically are. If we have a good thing going, that's one of those things.
I tell everybody I'm the idea guy and I'm the operations guy. And she just basically cleans up the messes behind me. Because again, she's the one paying invoices and billing and all that other stuff.
My oldest son just said that exact same thing to me last week about his wife, and that's the best way to go, man.
It's a team. I mean, we're both owners of the company, right? So when we talk about the authentic self and leadership, my companies that I have with Headlock and everything that's in there is me, and I never really wanted to be seen as a poser in anything I do. So, I mean, we could have called this anything for, Steph or, whatever you want to call it, Topkins and Associates or whatever boring thing that is, right? There's a million people that are here in Houston that are doing. And when you get called on by one of those and partners, whatever they want to call themselves, it just gets old, right? But when they see us and they can make that mental click of, I think that's a Star Wars reference, it hits something.
Very clever, by the way. Very clever, by the way. Because it shows also, I mean, yes, it's about leadership. And in this case, this business that we're talking about right now, it's about staffing and understanding and direction and kind of interesting. I mentioned the Regeneration School project, but kind of in your same mindset. And I'm not trying to plug this time, honestly, but in that part of that 5th core subject in the school systems that we're working to put a pilot program in, but part of that is more work in the counselor side of school, meaning that directing people towards what their interests are. In other words, finding that out and then develop the path in front of them that sucks them into it. Does that make sense? How I said that?
Yeah, and I do volunteer work at our school. I'm in the Big Brother program. And, my little, as they call him, he's a 5th grader. I had a time for a while trying to figure him out. Like, what does he actually like? I mean, he likes soccer, but he's a very conservative kind of kid. It really snapped when I realized he could be process driven. So now we do what they call snap circuits. It's like an electrical circuit game stuff where they put stuff together and it makes lights go and fans and all that. But that was you know what? I think he'd be good at that. And you then when you report back, what's he like? Well, I think he could probably do this. They start listening to those things because you pick up on it and then you just help guide them along, like you said.
Yeah, and that's something we just don't do, and I think that's one of the reasons I kind of attached. Oh, by the way, whoever puts your stuff, I was talking to somebody else before. I think it wasn't directly you. It was somebody
Yeah, it was me.
also on the marketing team.
Yeah.
Very, 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 very well done. And you know, the execute, just the wording, the discussions, the professionalism. Not that that doesn't happen all the time, but there's a difference. You could see when that's the standard. Does that make sense? I brought up in my opening monologue, there's motivation, and you got to have motivation. But I really love the way you frame this, and that motivation's awesome. It's great. But creating a standard by the people you bring on, that's a way to build a team that's just like freaking rock solid. And I love that whole concept.
Well, as a founder, it's your vision, right? For whatever it is.
Exactly.
The mentality, the attitude.
Good, bad, or indifferent.
It doesn't matter, right? And again,
right.
For leaders and owners of companies that were just all about themselves, they didn't promote their team, and that gets old after a while because your team ends up just being, well, what does D want to do today? Okay, we'll just work on this, and appease him. And they're looking at the clock. And I've been that guy, worked for crappy companies and crappy leaders. When you empower your team to bring out the best in them, that is where things get happening. Now, in the Army and combat, that's a little bit different, right? But when you're talking about business, when you're talking about a marketing team who does great work, you just let them go, man. Give them the creativity and the ideas, and they'll just flourish with it. If you have people that are good at process, let them work your process out, right? If they're good at sales, let them do sales. But you as the owner have to be all those people, because otherwise you won't be able to define it for them. And then they'll just be okay, let's try this, try this. And you do try stuff, but eventually you have to hone it in to what the mission is, what you're trying to accomplish. And you do that by surrounding yourself with people who you like to work with, basically, and can get the job done. And you don't have to hammer them every single day, because I hate micromanaging, because I've been micromanaged. I'm sure you've been there yourself.
100%. Yeah. And on both sides of that. I mean, I built a machinery business for 30 years in Chicago. I just moved here this is the first time I've ever lived in rural America. I did it on purpose. And I love it. But yeah, you're right. I have experienced that. And by the way, before we go on with this discussion, I was so caught up by Batman. I did not see what's on. By the way, I come from a very musical family, hugely musical family. So what the hell is going on? You have not just one, but two. It looks like, is that a bass or that's a guitar? Is that a Fender? Is that a Fender?
It's an LTD. It's autographed by the rock band Gwar. And this one is autographed by Social Distortion. So,
really?
We didn't include this in the packet, but I'm the founder of a nonprofit here, a 501c3 called the Houston Zombie Walk and the Houston Halloween Festival. We used to put on the Halloween Fest that had thousands and thousands of people that would show up here in Houston, and we donated the money to local teachers, like classroom funds, to get them in scholarships.
Well, dude, we got to have a lot more talks. Go on.
I think so. But, COVID killed off our events because we were doing 4 major events. We had no paid staff, all the money just for operations. I got tired of it, but we still fund the program through the guitar program. So we use a local venue here called Warehouse Live, Midtown. Bands come through, mostly metal. I drop a guitar off. Sometimes they go to the show, they autograph it, and then we sell it on eBay, goes into a fund, and then we give away $500 Amazon classroom cards where they just go on Amazon, pick out whatever you need for your classroom, and we just ship it to them.
Wow.
It's very easier to do it this way. But yeah, I've got 8 guitars around me. I've got 2 for sale on eBay right now. And then Gwar is actually next month. So we'll get another guitar because I'm from Virginia, and Gwar is from Virginia. So they've autographed dozens of guitars. They don't do it very often, and they go for a premium, and everybody loves them. So
do you know who Linkin Park is?
Yes, I know who Linkin Park is. Yeah, my kids love the Emptiness Machine. The song.
They used to play at my mom's store.
Oh, awesome.
In Fullerton Music Centers, which was around for 30, 40 years or so. She's passed away, and one of her husbands kind of tore everything apart. But she had two levels, about 30,000 square feet, and she had 30 teachers. And Fender built their museum across the street, kitty catter, to her store. And so she really dived in. Van Halen used to come in and visit her. Now none of these are my skill sets. I mean, I'm a singer, but not that. I'm not Van Halen or anything like that, or even anybody. But growing up in that world, I would love to get involved in that, because there's still that connection out, maybe California, Houston. I mean, I just always think, you know what I mean? Just ideas come up and it's like, whoa, wait a minute. That's something. There's something there to talk more about.
So when I got to Oklahoma, I fell in love with rockabilly music because that's one of the birthplaces of it. So I picked up the upright bass, and I'm an upright bass player with the weed whacker strings. Yeah. I'm not in a band, but I do some studio size stuff every now and again. Yeah.
Oh, rockabilly's the best.
It's so much fun.
I'm bummed it didn't last longer.
Old folks turn into rockabilly eventually, man. That's how
exactly.
How it works. Yeah,
that's exactly right.
They ascend into it. Yeah.
Why did you read what home? There's a lot of podcasts on today for some reason. I'm not sure what's happening here. But by the way, adventure. Let me go back to something here. Adventure with the Agodas. Do you know this? Because they made like 4 or 5 or 6 comments in here. Do you know these people?
I see the photo. Yeah. Is it a family?
Anyway.
Okay. Yeah.
It looks like it's a family show of some sort. And this is Jora's Park, Forest Park. Forest Park. I'm not sure either. But anyway, so this one here, why don't you read that out loud? And we're just getting started here, man.
We've already been on 40 minutes. This is amazing and interesting podcast.
It is, yeah. Homegrown. I've never seen them on here before. But they are out of Orlando, I guess. They're very active today. I've never seen them on the show, but they've made it. God, they've made a whole bunch of comments here. So we'll follow them through. You obviously have a big fan here.
Nice.
So as we're talking here, so we do need to tell some people about the hot sauce company. There at some point that we do have to mention something about that. But as far as leadership and how you bring teams together, I forgot to ask you. Do you have a session or a book or anything or is this just what you're doing and also talking about your recruiting company? I mean, what do you want to leave people? We're not done yet, not even close. You said you don't have a hard stop, but I didn't ask you this earlier. What do you want? What impact do you want to leave your 500 people fan base here? What would you want to talk about aside from what we're already going to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy. I'm to the point in my life where people actually want to know this stuff from me, where I've been in jobs before nobody gave a crap about it. That's been awesome to see. And, if we can leave something with people that maybe it can change their mindset. If you have a project you're thinking about or creative aspect, I tell everybody, man, my life is a blend of creativity and process. Because if one is overtaking the other, you're missing out, right? And so I do creative things, whether it's this or writing screenplays or children's books, that kind of stuff. Because I do all that stuff because the day-to-day grind.
Dude, hold on. I'm growing a man crush on you. I gotta be honest with you.
I'm just saying, yeah.
Every sentence you're saying is just like, dude, screenplays too. Go ahead, keep going.
No, but it goes back to the original theme of this is being your authentic self. And if you're that, it will motivate all kinds of people that you've never met before. And it's just a great feeling in life because I'm going to leave here, eventually go pick up the kids from school. I'm going to be on a high from this and creating a sense of community and all that. That is what I love doing in my day to day, because again, my kids are small and I want them to see this someday and be like, God damn, Dad was a badass, and yeah.
It's funny you say that because we also talk about, this is about the middle class. So there's a number of lanes that we work within. And I know a little enough about a lot of things to where I can talk with people like you who are the actual experts. But it's funny what you just said about you want your little girls to look back at as they've been watching you live the life somebody told me something a little while ago now, and it's stuck with me, and it continues to bubble up in my life. And that children watch us all the time, as watch their parents or other adults, whatever, but watch their parents, right? There's a lot of studies and so forth that kind of made me kind of come to living on this statement, which is kids learn a hell of a lot more from you about who they need to become or who they will become by watching what you do, how you interact with other people, how you interact with them, how you react to pressure, how you react to stimulation of all different situations. And it's not like what's daddy doing now? What's that? But you know what I mean? They watch you and they take all that in, and by far more they learn how to become an adult by watching you than by listening to you getting after them or saying, "Oh, you're a great girl."
This is a rhetorical question, but every dad has tried to do something, and then their kid will tell the mom what dad did, and you try to say, "I didn't do that," but you totally did because they observe everything that you do.
100%.
Yeah.
You have such a responsibility to yourself to literally live your life, to be active in your own life. And that's kind of what you're talking about now, taking on those passions, taking on those different things that you do, but you're being active in your life, and the kids see that.
Yep. I can equate it to you can see I'm a tattooed guy. Got a full back tattoo. It's almost like when I went in the Army, I got a lot of really crappy tattoos back in the day, like all the bros did, and I've covered them all up with nicer stuff. I don't think anybody should get a tattoo until you're like 40, because you never have any idea who you really are, right? And so that has been you can either get them taken off or you can cover them up. I went the cover up route, but now it's almost like I'm dealing with a mob where I'm in too deep, bro. Like I just got to keep going, to create the body image that I have, that because one day the kids will be older and they'll be able to identify with it a little bit more than, "Daddy, I just like your tattoos. Tell me about them," and you just put that on your body, and you tell a story to them. So is it, "Oh man, I used to love, Creed back in the day," or is it, "Oh yeah, here's the story about, how mommy and daddy met in color,"
I've never been a tattoo person. My dad had this awesome, badass tattoo, which was a dagger and a snake, back in the day, right? Yeah. I'm old. And, that was kind of a popular one, kind of with the dagger and snake. And of course it was Marine, but, and then there was a woman in there. And I always loved that tattoo, but I just never went to go that route. However, the reason people get tattoos, you just said it, and to me it fascinates me, because you tell us it's actually a very beautiful thing. Which for me, I say that only because, not that nobody needs me to say it, but me saying that is because I'm developing, I'm growing, because that whole story of how your mom and I met, and do I like Creed? It's a story of your life that you want people to know about, and hopefully be asked about.
I need your fans to know I did not like Creed ever. I just threw that in there as a.
Oh, okay. Well, I was just following you, man. But you want people to ask you, right? I assume you do. I don't know, but I assume, and you get that question. You get to answer that question. You're looking forward to your daughter someday maybe asking, "What's that one for, Daddy?"
Yeah. That's it. All right, but we digress.
We do digress. We have digressed periodically, regularly here. Go on.
No, I mean,
let's talk about leadership.
Yeah.
You were talking about what I was asking you before we kind of were ticking down was what are there things that you want people to walk away with from this? And do you have some way of reaching out to people about, I mean, we're not anywhere near done, but I want to, at the end of the show, I want to, you see the private chat there on your right-hand side?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so at some point, I want you to put your contact information in there. So, because there's a lot of people that want to contact you, it looks like here. And I've got a few questions coming up as well. But at the end of the chat, I'm not going to put it in now. So sometime between now and then, if you're doing it now, awesome. I'll wait. I'll see a little red light there. And then I'll copy and paste that over so that people, because you know how you've done lots of podcasts. They may show up a minute after they're live. They may show up a month after. And they're like, man, I wish I would have asked him about, ask D about this or that. That way they can contact you, correct? We get a lot of comments on our on our episodes afterwards, but I don't check them every day. This way they can contact you.
Yeah, I'll answer any question anybody ever has of me.
All right, perfect. So what are some of the ways that people can contact you? Here's some contact information, but do you have any information that you're putting out there that people can reach out to and pull or a class, or because this is really I talk about this every once in a while. I do a lot of shows, as we've already talked about. So I talk to a lot of different people about probably about a dozen different subjects that have a little bit of change, but basically those core subjects. In there, we have leaders that come on about those subjects. Every once in a while, somebody has, and they're all good. You're looking at it from a different angle. So I'm the luckiest guy in the world. I get an hour and a half. By the way, we've almost been going an hour now, 45 minutes.
All good. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Went like that, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm fortunate in that. But every once in a while, somebody comes across and I see this message and it's like, okay, this is impactful. Not that the others aren't, but this is at another level of impactful. So are there things, do you train people on this? Do you write about that? I didn't see anything. I may have missed it. This happened pretty quick turnaround. So can you fill me in on any of that side? And then we'll go back into leadership. We'll get there, I promise.
Yeah, we do offer free coaching, whether it's you're on the client side of not understanding what kind of hires we need to do, or you're somebody that's looking for work. I give LinkedIn, recommendations all the time. Why am I not getting interviewed? Well, there's a lot of different things that we could do to help you out. For candidates, we do a lot of free stuff, just the consulting, recommendations and whatnot. Just because it is friggin' tough out there right now. I know it is.
It's hard.
My story. We go back to where I quit the job, the W-2. Right. What I had beside my bed was called the pile, and it was all my old khaki pants and Joseph Bank shirts and crap belts and cheap shoes. All the stuff I used to have to wear to go to a cubicle or an office was right there. And that was a reminder of me when I get up, I'm like, brother, you better get this good or you're going to be putting that crap back on again. It was very a visual reminder every day. This has to work, because you don't want to go back to the stuff that you hated doing, from the other stuff. So, yeah, just reach out to me anytime. Again, in the chat, we'll post it at the end. You can find me on LinkedIn. I don't do Instagram, and my Facebook is private, but LinkedIn, or just look at our websites.
What's your LinkedIn address? Did you put that on there by chance?
I did not. I'll do that right now for you, bud.
Okay, then while you're doing that, go ahead and do that. And then come back to it, because I'm going to read the adventure. I'll tell you what, I guarantee the adventure show is going to be contacting you. So, John, and by the way, I don't recognize any of these names. Every once in a while, we have consistent people that come on, but this is a whole new group. This is a different group of people that I'm not familiar with. By the way, some big respect here. I wanted to give you this one.
Yeah.
Where is it? Oh, here, the adventure show. Yes, we're here to listen to you, D. They don't give a shit about me.
Maybe people, I don't know.
Thank you for your service, D. That's what I was looking for. You got to know these folks. Either that, or they're looking for some real leadership advice.
This is
go ahead.
Okay. Yeah.
Read what Matt Daly says.
This is real leadership talk. Fire, respect, man. Awesome. Again, in the by Southwest banner, which is a big deal.
Oh yeah. What is that? Wait, say that again. What does that mean?
South by Southwest. That's the big international music business energy thing, music festival that happens in Austin every year. Yeah.
Is that the one you were talking? Is that the one you were just talking about?
Yeah, that's Matt Daly or Daly. Yeah. That's
Yeah,
where.
no. What you just said is the festival, but were you just talking about that festival
No, no,
that
no.
you
You were
do?
talking about the Houston Halloween Festival that I used to put on. That's a different
A
thing.
different one.
Mhm.
Gotcha. So this dude's dialed India, right?
Yeah.
South by Southwest. What did I want to else bring up here? Okay, this is what this is. There's a lot of this transitions between the army and civilian life and creating your own businesses, and it seems to be happening more and more and more because honestly, the intelligence coming out of the military is another level than it used to be. You know, it used to be thug, kind of, that's not the right word, but people are more and more intelligent now. Why? Because they're working with systems more and more. I mean, our military is at a level where you've got technicians running stuff. Like you said, even from a private, you're doing project management. But what was the toughest transition from the army to CEO? Let's call it.
The toughest transition it's very easy. I got out of the army in Germany. I was married at the time. I got married early at 21 to someone else who was also in the military police. Basically, we were the only age, single folks in the platoon or in the company.
Gotcha.
Right? So
Gotcha.
When I had a small time left in Germany, when she got stationed at Fort Jackson, South Carolina, I went to school at University of South Carolina. When we got to South Carolina, I'm like, brother, I just got 5 years done in the military police, man. People are going to be knocking down my door to hire me. I couldn't even get a job as a security guard in anywhere,
Wow.
because A, it was such a military town. There's 100 dudes just like me, and B, I didn't have the civilian education. I had nothing. I hadn't even taken the SATs because I took the ASVAB, and that's all I thought I ever needed. So even when it came time to go into school, even though they were ready to accept me at the university, I didn't have the education portfolio where they wanted to take a risk on me. So I had to go 2 years at a local community college to build up my basics again. That sucked. That was a huge roadblock where I'm like, what's wrong with me? And I think everybody has that question. I've had in the past, one of my clients was organized as a military company. It's an industrial roofing company. And they wanted veterans. They wanted veterans in some pretty crappy areas: Beaumont, Texas, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And I had to go find people. They want us to find veterans. I met so many people that did 2-3 years. Maybe they were even a sergeant, and they're working at Domino's, or they're working at a chicken processing facility because nobody's there to help them. And I go in there. I'm like, look, I'm hiring for this company that organizes a pillar military unit where, yes, you're going to be an applicator, but you're going to get this rank, and you're going to be able to go up because you have a team leader and a squad leader. In civilian terms, we call them other things, first line supervisors, managers, but they're going to be able to communicate to you the way that you miscommunicated, because they all miss the military, the camaraderie and all that kind of stuff, because you're not going to get it anywhere else. Forget it. I don't care what your company culture is as a civilian. Unless you surround yourself by all military, you're never going to understand what that is. When I tell those kids, they're all kids, this is what's going to happen. They just melt. They're like, I can't wait to start. I can't quit my job today. Like, get me in on this action. And they all stay, because it is, again, a cultural mindset where they're creating something that's going to attract the people that they want to work for them, rather than just shotgunning, job descriptions out there to see who sticks. When you can make a good transition, you just have to know what you want. I thought I lived the American dream. Was a soldier, got out, got married, had a house, and all that kind of stuff, got my education. But even then it was still tough because, okay, I have this college degree, but no experience in the degree, in the working. So I did a lot of crap jobs before Sunoco came calling. It was tough just being on the road, making very little pay and all that kind of stuff. But ultimately, when you look at it years later, it did work out for the best, because you look at the things that are around you now, Batman included. Never would have bought this if I hadn't gone down the life path that I have. You run your life the way you can. You do your best. You try to inspire others as a leader, and they will rally around your battle flag. Ultimately, when it comes to whether you're in the army or whether it's Veda Ray or Headlock, if people are motivated by what you say, they're going to help you out. And at the end of the day, I just want to help out people too.
Yeah, and you're saying some interesting things there in that, and I wanted to ask you. So you work in working with a lot of military folk that are transitioning from the service into civilian life. I see it. I personally experience it, so I know. I get it. You're surrounding yourself with that community. You're going to have an amazing experience of dedicated, qualified, capable, ongoing, never afraid to quit.
Work ethic is stellar. Yes.
Work ethic is you don't find that anywhere else. Mm-hmm. And on top of it, once you're out of the service for a little while, you do miss that. It's like being on a team, but at another level, because you really build connections because of what you grew up in. Now going into a workforce, if you're bringing that back together, you already have that ability, that capability, that knowledge, that desire, and to really collaborate with other people. That's what you miss in when you retire from sports. If you're an athlete, the professional, especially, you get out of it in high school, that's another thing. But those things matter. And then the military is another level of that for obvious reasons. You surround yourself in that and bring that into your business, or bring that in, which is within the community. Now you have something that's pulsating outwards as well, and has a, like you said, we're energy. We emit that outward, and that's something that's pretty special. But how often do you see what kind of trend do you see different transitions from do some people have more difficulty in that transition? Is there good side and bad side? You work with a lot of people.
Yeah.
So both of them. What is the whole picture?
So if you are a cybersecurity expert, so back in Headlock Hot Sauce, we had a kid who was an intern for us. He was in high school. We would teach these kids everything from making it to selling it. Here's the business, just as we would pay them, obviously. Bryce went into the Air Force as a cybersecurity analyst, because guess what? He wants to get into cybersecurity when he gets out. If you have the aptitude, pick the job you want to do when you leave. The people who have the toughest.
Whoa! Say that. I heard you, but everybody stay here, because this is the big deal right now. It ties a lot of things together. Say what you just said again, please.
If you are going to go into the military, you're going to pick a job, an MOS or a branch. If you are in ROTC or some type of officer training program, pick the job that you want to do when you get out. Okay.
It's called an MOS. What does that stand for?
Yeah, or a branch if you're an officer. I had no intention of being law enforcement when I got out, and that was one of my biggest problems. When I meet people who are really not doing a lot, these are folks that they were artillery, or they were infantry, they were combat arms, which has zero translation except for leadership, really, when you get into civilian life. People who are truck drivers or engineers or something like that, they can make a transition depending on the job, right?
That makes sense.
That is really what, and I people ask me, what about your kids? What if they go in? I mean, they can go in and do whatever they want. We're going to support them, right? But I will give them the same guidance, which is probably go into Space Force, pick a technology forward type job that we can help you transition out. And of course, 21-year-olds generally don't have that. People that get out and they're like, finally I get to throw the boots up and be done with this crap. They get home like, okay, what's happening? Let me check the local papers and see what's available. They'll go to school part-time, but then they don't realize how expensive it is, and
right.
I was fortunate that the GI Bill at the time paid for all of my, community college school.
GI Bill was awesome.
Well, I got into ROTC, which they paid for the rest.
Yep. So building off the back of that, so we're just saying, okay, guys and ladies, men and women, as you're going into the military, if that's the direction you're going, make sure and make that MOS or what? I'm sorry, what was the other thing? If you're an officer,
if you're an officer, they're going to place you. You get top third in what National Advanced Leadership Camp. You're going to get your top 3 or 5 or whatever it was back at the time, and then middle third.
You want.
Yeah, almost, pretty much, and then then the middle ground gets something similar maybe, but then in the bottom third, they're going to place you wherever they want you,
So the first key is kind of trying to steer into at least a job that's transferable to, don't be an artillery, don't be a machine gunist, the whole whatever, you know what I mean, right? So there's that. Make that decision and move forward with that. It seems like cybersecurity is a big deal, and that's only going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and that's going to be huge transferable skills. And it sounds like the Space Force is probably the most leading edge of that kind of area, of the technology side. Even though if we look at all the freaking airplanes and technology, the Army, the military, the Marines, the Navy has, maybe not next level to the Space Force, but definitely higher. But what's one mistake you see? I've transitioned out. I want to be a founder. I want to start building something. I've got transferable skills, but I've been through my leadership of being in the military or not. I want to be a CEO. I want to found my own company. What is the early mistakes you see that people have made in their first teams?
Yeah, they don't, even though we're talking
great question, by the way, folks. Yeah.
They don't have a plan. Every plan comes from an idea, and ideas are only good as long as you can create a plan for them, right? Yep. I've tried things in the past that didn't work. I do see young guys that come out, they never saved any money. So they're coming out with maybe a something, but it's not enough to get them by. Once they realize, oh man, I got to pay for an apartment, or man, gas is really expensive nowadays. I have to have medical insurance. Are you kidding me? Because those are all taken care of when you're in service. It's and the Army, and I'm using the Army as an example, does prep you for that when you get out. But again, if you got guys that have been in 2 or 3 years, they don't give a shit. They're just looking to get out and get on with their lives and are cashing that GI Bill. But again, it's not enough to get you through what you need to do. It's just, they are preparing you, but they get out and all of a sudden they're drinking with their buddies. They go back to their hometowns with no plans of getting anywhere else. If I had done that, you and I definitely would not have been talking. If I would just gone out and headed back to Virginia, who knows, right? But
you'd be working at the Pizza Hut down the street, right?
Yeah, man. And guys have bad experiences. They just like, I was stationed at Fort Sill for 2 years. I hated it. I was bored all the time, just looking to get out and get on with my life. Maybe they didn't come out with any goals, right? But when we're talking about forming a company, having the plan, making sure you got the money to go do it, and then go do it. That goes back to what I said initially. Set the date, don't deviate. Set the plan in place. Don't wait, because you're going to come up with a million excuses of why now is not the time. And all the old timers will tell you, man, I should have done this. I should have traveled more. I should have done anything, right? The years are going to be blown past you before you know it. And it'll be like, well, I probably could have been a good leader. Okay, well, why didn't you? And when it comes to, well, I think the old joke is, you meet every coffee barista thinks that they're probably at a director level somewhere, but they just have a mindset of, yeah, I could totally do it. But, you've got to have the experience and everything else too.
You got to have, as you were saying earlier in that statement, sorry to cut you off a little bit there. Yeah. I missed that. But at the end of the day, it's never going to be the right time to start.
Never the right time.
There never will be the perfect time. People use that and say, well, I want it to be the right time. Well, the right time is now. That's the only right time there is actually right now.
So right now is in oil and gas is when everybody's getting their annual bonuses, right? They've done their reviews, and that happens at the end of the year. And this is basically when it hits. And then people will I see it all the time. People will get their bonuses or they'll get a cost of living increase or whatever, their bump in pay. And it's like, well, I guess I'm okay here for another year. Stick with that or get out, just because that's going to happen every single year, man. And by the end of it, your kids are gone and you're like, well, crap, I guess I could have made a better impact. Because they're going to follow what you do. If you're a leader and you're successful in life, would hope that your kids are going to take those life lessons and go be successful and get into leadership and all that too. If you don't, well, dad owned a, Hallmark store or something. Maybe I'll just go do that, or whatever mundane thing that you were doing that you don't have a lot of inflection with. When I talk about Veda Ray, when you hear me talk about Headlock, I have a lot of inflection because it's my freaking baby, and you have people that believe in it. If it's just whatever thing you're doing in oil and gas or whatever, and you're just like, I have this job title and I come in and blah, 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 do what everybody else does. Some people are good with that. Most people aren't, but it's your grit, your drive, your work ethic, and your ability to plan is what's going to get you to the finish line.
That's awesome. Now, once you're there, let's say, okay, I've made that commitment. It's not the right time, but I'm doing it, or it is, something happened and I made that first step. I've founded something. It always starts from here and then goes to there and then moves on and then continues, or doesn't. But at the end of the day, I've got some teams going, and this is an area I actually had some trouble with. So I'm really glad that.
Rick. That's the thing, yeah.
Yep. I'm really glad Rick brought this up because I actually, this is an area, I built that machinery business over 30 years. We went from, me and producer Barbie, and then continuing on, and we're getting to $12 million a year in sales. And it wasn't my thing. After all that time, it was like, you know what? I found out that the only thing I really liked about my business was the marketing and the sales that I did. But what's the first thing you fix in a failing team? That's a hard thing because it's a failing team. Now for me, it wasn't the easiest thing to do. What's the first thing you fix?
You got to fix your communication. If your team is failing, it's because there's no communication. No one silo doesn't know what the other one's doing. Your sales doesn't know what marketing's doing. Your admin doesn't know how to help bring it all together. Fix the communication, man. And when you fix your communication, then your ideas come together, and then you can again create the plan to put it. Now, there's things that you can't fix. People's crappy attitudes, or I'm just here for the paycheck and all that. Yeah, there's a saying in recruiting which is hire slow and fire fast. That's a hard lesson I had last year. We had a sales development rep. I just liked her so much. She was sweet and nice and everything. And she was doing the things I was kind of telling her to do, but she could never get us to the finish line. I just let it draw out way too long, where I should have cut her loose and gotten somebody better. And one of the things I tell people in recruiting, when you're reviewing resumes, if you're talking to people because somebody wants to work for you, make sure that they can do the bullet points on the job description first. The cultural stuff you can work on later in subsequent interviews. Because if they can't do what the business needs them to do, why the hell are you talking to them in the first place? Otherwise, you're just going to be hiring a friend who will screw everything up. And I've experienced that as well. And fix communication first, then create the plan. That will make your life better. I have a lot of virtual professionals that work for me. These are the old school term is VAs, virtual assistants.
Yeah, I've heard that.
I'm trying to change it to virtual professionals because they're not just setting, appointments or organize your calendar. They're doing a ton of different things, right? A lot of virtual professionals, guys that I know that are hiring them, they'll find them on wherever, and they'll just give them a list of things to do. Do this. Don't bother me until we need something else. Or they treat them like they're independent contractors almost, which they basically are. Here at Veda Ray, even at Headlock, we treat them like they're full-time employees. Like we have a kickoff meeting like every company will at the beginning of the week. We have a wrap-up meeting in the end, and I check in with literally everybody every day because that's the communication piece to ensure that things don't fall out, and I encourage them in their different departments to talk to each other to, again, get the vision and implement the mission. And so if you don't have that communication, you're going to show up a month from now when you haven't talked to anybody, like, why the hell isn't this shit working? Well, it's because you weren't creating a good communication guideline for people to work with.
And it really comes back to always from the inside out. I mean, that's just kind of a developing theme that I've noticed on our show, and it just always comes back to that same thing. You can't look outward and say, why is that not working? It really starts from here, because especially in this conversation, but in all things in life, it's also true.
Yeah, and I see there's a question from Jeff Lamb. What is one leadership rule you never break? Mine is
wait, hold on. You're jumping around here. Where are you at now?
Jeff Lamb. He's one.
I usually like to try and set these up a little bit.
Oh, okay. No worries.
Can we get back to that in a second,
if
you don't mind? Because I've got a couple ones that I want to set up here.
Yeah.
But Nick here says, how do you build trust quickly in new teams? Now, do you work a lot with VAs or what did you call them, virtual professionals?
Yeah.
In different aspects of the business?
Oh, yeah. Very many different aspects of the business.
This is all new to me. This is an interesting world here where I'm starting to hear about this, but this is a big deal, right?
Yeah. So I have teams in the Philippines. A lot of our backup admin stuff is over there. Our marketing team, our government contracts office is over there. People who help me in the day-to-day are there. And it goes back to the communication piece. You have to be available. If you're just somebody that's hiring people and like, well, there's your first line supervisor, I think they know what they want me to do, or I want them to do for me. It can really just spiral very quickly. I want everybody to know me. And again, that's why nobody calls me Mr. Topkins. They don't call me Darren. They call me D, because it instantly just kind of creates I hate to use the term circle of trust, but they know they can approach me at any time of day. Because I'm using people that are here in the US, in Asia, and we're about to have people in Eastern Europe, they can literally hit me up on WhatsApp 24 hours a day. If I'm awake, I'm going to reply immediately. Or if I've had too many bourbons, they may have to wait. But, being available for your team is just as important to being available for your friends or anybody else, because like I said, if things go to shit here and I'm not doing that, I'm going to have to put this crappy, this is I have 3 of these now and a couple of buttons ups. That's all, when my team sees me for these kickoff meetings, I'm usually in a gym shirt or a concert shirt or something like that, because wearing the suit just isn't me anymore. And so if you can tell people, this is our culture, it's very laid back. Now, if we're in client meetings, you need to look the part, right? But if it's your day-to-day, man, work from home. You don't have to go to an office. One of the things I tell clients when they ask us about a pricing structure is, I've worked for other firms where you show up, why don't you come to my office, Rodd? We'll talk about your recruiting needs. And you roll up into our office. Here's everything. Here's our expensive coffee machine. Here's our director of recruiting, our director of sales. Here's our recruiters. Here's the admin. Here's this, that. You're going to think, man, this is a lot of overhead. The way we have Beta Ray set up, it's a lot less expensive, and we pass that savings on to the customer. And, people are appreciating that and our ability to scale, because we're a VA heavy team, VRVP team. We move faster to fulfill what you need versus, I hate to say it, a lot of the American style is to just we'll go through this process and we'll get to it eventually, where I have let's get it done quickly, because every hire is an ASAP hire as far as I'm concerned. Even though we're taking our time, hire slow, fire fast, we just assume everything's an ASAP moment.
Yeah, it's a great way to approach it, because being an ASAP moment, you can also you ever hear the term, have the game come to you?
Exactly.
Where things slow down and now it's coming to you. Hey, by the way, curiosity question here, and I'm thinking about something I talked to you about earlier. Curiosity question: in your services with your clients that are looking for jobs, there's the companies that are looking for employees, and then the employees are the people potentially to be an employee are looking for different opportunities. Is that always I don't know how to say this anymore. Is there remote opportunities as well as brick and mortar opportunity, so to speak, brick and mortar opportunities.
Yeah, I mean,
am I saying that right? I don't know if
you're
I'm
right.
saying
You're
that.
right. Yeah, in office versus remote versus hybrid.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. There you go.
First off, for the listeners, okay, every recruiting agency is on the client side, meaning the client's the one that pays the fee to get you there. If any recruiter hits you up and says, bro, I got a perfect job for you, you pay me $5,000, I'll get you in, they're a shyster, dude. Just run away. Just ignore it, you know? Coming out of COVID, we always talk about COVID, I was 100% remote. My wife was 100% remote for years. Just this past week, she went from 3 days a week in the office to 4. So now they're back in the office 4 days a week, Monday through Thursday. She's here on Fridays, which is great. But what BP and these other companies were seeing, even when everybody's remote, their numbers were stellar, you know? And so there's a lot of collaboration that can happen within in-office type staff, you know? But in what I've set up here, we don't necessarily need that because we have great technologies like this. Now, if an EMP were to hit overhead, we'd be really screwed. But, you know, but everybody would be. The collaboration can happen. And what that means, because my guys are all remote, the clients I can go see and I can break off my time to go do that because I know they've got everything handled, right? To get the day-to-day going so I can go find us more work. When that's what my main mission is right now at the beginning of the year.
So it sounds like we've been talking about those habits for quite a bit. And I want to talk to you more about your off camera, about your agency because of our rural regeneration project, you know, so there's some synergies there that may have some discussionable moments. So Daniel here though, I think we've been talking about this popped up during the conversation. What habits make the biggest impact for your success? Well, I think you just named a number of them, starting with your name, D, instead of Mr. You know what I mean? That accessibility. Why don't you answer Daniel there in a little bit more, put some color in between those layers.
So I talked earlier about having a good blend of creativity and process.
Yes.
You know, now you might be in a process-driven job. You might be a chemical engineer or you might be an accountant or something. That's all process, right? But when you're owner of a company, an entrepreneur, whatever you want to call it, you find that you have to dice up your time every day. You know, I get up in the morning, I look at the calendar, and I look at where the gaps are. And gaps can be opportunities. They don't necessarily have to be like, man, I can't get anything going, right? You know, I'm coming off this meeting. I really don't have anything else for the day other than some stuff in my head that I needed to do. I help a lot on the family side. You know, like I said, I cook 90% of our meals. I pick up the kids or take the kids to school almost every day. I'm involved in the community. That is a very fulfilling thing to me that I couldn't do before because I was required to sit in a cubicle or an office for, you know, 8-9 hours a day. And then time management that is impactful is important on the job side. I typically do the team stuff, my internal team stuff on Mondays and Fridays, because I know clients probably they're doing the same thing we're doing on Mondays, right? They're doing a kickoff, they're planning the week out. So I typically don't bother clients or potential clients until like Tuesday, Wednesday timeframe when I know that they're going to have a little bit more time on their hands to work on this stuff because they're doing the internal stuff. Once that gets done, we're checking in all of your clients. You need to check in with them all the time and the potential clients, because otherwise there's people coming up behind you that are trying to get their work that you think is solid, right? And then everything here in recruiting, everything in business, everything in your entire life is relationships. I really didn't know that when I was in a 9-to-5 mid-level supervisor. As a leader and owner, like I said earlier, the buck stops here, man. And if people don't like you or you can't develop a rapport with folks, they're going to find somebody else that they can be with that. And so when it comes to making the business work, you pick up every phone call, right? And I've got a good example of that for Headlock Hot Sauce, which we're going to transition to. And just doing the right thing all the time. Because clearly I'm not a gavel thumper guy, you know, it's my way or the highway all the time. Because again, people will leave for culture reasons just for that. People will leave their jobs for two reasons. They leave because there's better money somewhere else, or they're leaving for a better culture. And if they're leaving for one of those two things, figure it out, man. In giant mega companies, there's a lot of red tape to make that kind of stuff happen because you're dealing with thousands and thousands of employees. When you're the level we are, I can make those pivots just waking up in the morning thinking I have a great idea, and that's very impactful for me because as a creative guy, I like to kind of work that way and not just be like, it's my way or the highway, because you'll lose talent if your mentality is that.
I refer a lot of times back to, do you know the Ted Lasso show? Have you ever heard of it?
I've seen it all. Yeah, all of them.
Okay. Kick-ass show, right?
Yeah.
So in that, during that show, you'll know the scene I'm talking about. By the way, I have some really cool comments about your Batman guy behind you in a minute. But in that show, you know this, the dart scene, right?
Yep.
The dart scene where it's Ted Lasso and then the ex-owner, the divorcee. Any of you don't know Ted. Any of you know Ted Lasso, already the scene. If you don't, we don't have enough time to get into it. However, he's doing the dart, right? There's this wager that goes on. 10,000 pounds. Ooh, I'm too rich. That's too rich for my blood. However, what this other wager? So they set up this wager to play darts, right? And as they were going along, Ted Lasso was obviously just kind of working right behind him, setting him up in this kind of thing. And you got to watch the scene to get into that. My only point being, to your point of what you just said, in that scene, he talks about, people used to always judge me, and they used to always this and this and this and this and that. And it always bothered me. I'm almost saying this word for word. I just love this. This comment is probably one of the most important things in life for somebody to have. But in this example, he says, and he's throwing the dart, or actually he's left-handed. He's throwing the darts, and he goes, they always used to judge me. They used to always bother me. He needed 3 head-on things. And then he goes, then one day it hit me. I was driving my son. I was picking him up from school, and I turned the corner, and there on the wall was painted, oh damn it! Now I just went blank on the poet's name, but on there, this very famous poet somebody took out of this very famous poet, be curious, not judgmental.
Very true. Yeah.
You remember that scene, right? And isn't that one of the most important things when you're going through life? You said a couple of things. If you would have started this earlier, maybe you wouldn't have been ready for it. Now, it's happening at the right time. And you just got to go with those thoughts because it makes sense. Because I'd say the same exact thing. I wish I would have been doing this when I came out. I came out of school, going to college, double major, theater and business administration. I wish I would have taken the theater one, but then I always think, if I would have taken the theater one, how much would have really fucked up my life?
You'll drive yourself crazy thinking of that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So you got to just go with it, and really, it makes a lot of sense that you're ready when you're ready at the time that you're ready. What was the biggest? Now this we've already answered, but a little bit more homegrown. Can you just fill this in a little bit more for us? What's the biggest mindset shift you had to make when transitioning from leading through authority, right, in the Army, to leading through ownership? Because, is there a difference? Is ownership more personal? I mean, leadership is leadership. You pulled those skills, use them to go into your business. But is there a difference?
There's a huge difference. Ownership is personal. If we go bankrupt,
exactly.
If we go bankrupt, I got people that are all of a sudden out of jobs, and I've been a guy who's been fired before a lot. And that sucks so hard. And whether I've been through company downsizing, private company sold, I'm always thinking about the folks. And it just, when you're in the Army or military leadership, if you fail, there's a whole $1 trillion budget behind you to fix it. Here, not so much, and I will say,
good point.
With the leaders that are out there, when I talk to people, everybody has their high five stories, right? Oh, look what I accomplished. Look how awesome I am. I'm really not interested in those stories anymore. I'm really interested in, tell me about your failures, because that is a much more deepful impact conversation than just, oh, they made whatever. They made $1 million last year, whatever the hell they were saying. selling, or they sold 1 million units. Okay, that's great. How many times do you fuck up trying to get that? You know, and it's more personal in that level.
Well, and don't you pull more away from a loss than a win anyway?
Truly, I pull.
Not that you want to lose all the time, but
no, but I pull a ton more from those, you know. Yeah, those are deeper conversations than, okay, well, let me buy you beer because you did whatever XYZ for your company last year, you know. Because those are tough conversations you have to with your family and everything else. So it's, you know,
and you know, picking up on what you said, personal is a big difference. You know, you fuck up in the Army and stuff happens, hopefully at the right spot where nobody, you know, too traumatic happens, but you've got the government backing you. And
you know, it doesn't matter if you're talking about operations in a theater or if you break the mop handle, you know, they've got that's pretty quick, you know.
Yeah, bam. Yeah, been there, done that. So why don't you read what you're this is a this family. I think they're going to be knocking on your door.
Yeah, that's amazing, dude.
Yeah. So what did they say to you there?
It says, wow, that's amazing.
All right, now this one,
no debt. Yep.
And then this one,
0 debt never happens, but you did it with 0 debt. Yeah.
All right, so now let's get back to some questions here. How do you test someone's character in the interview itself? Because that's a big part. It's a moment. It's that moment. How do you do that?
You know, you have to figure out what the cultural questions are from the client, because remember, they're not working for you. You're representing somebody else and their culture. Correct. Right? So I use this a lot lately. We have a new client where the owner is in the office most days, and he has 2 gigantic ass dogs. One King Corso and a big Doberman.
And I've got a Doberman.
And they're
Those King Corsos are badass.
And they're in the office. So that is a cultural question we have to ask candidates. Are you okay with dogs? Are you allergic? Are you scared of them? Because you're not going to get the owner to change his culture. You're right. So they have to adapt to it. And that's a little bit different from the testing someone's character. But it's a cultural question that was irrelevant a decade ago, because it's like, if you want this freaking job, you have to show up here. You know, and they have people that won't even come into the office to collect their paychecks, or people that are in warehouses and whatnot because they're scared of the dogs, you know. But it's that type of cultural question that we deep dive, which gets into testing someone's character. I can, you know, when it comes to like Veda I have my own ideas of what I think people need to be like. But if they're going to become an engineer or millwright or something for an oil and gas company, that's a much different culture, because you're really talking about, in recruiting, yes, every time is money, and you know, you have to get certain things done by a certain deadline. It doesn't have the budgetary requirements that a refinery does when they don't get a turnaround project done. That now you're talking about millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions, billions of dollars in damage, right? So each job in each category is going to have a different set of standards and requirements. You test someone's character in the interview by including those cultural questions. And I start out every interview with, what are you doing today? You know, because if it's just, hello, my name is D and we're interviewing about this, you're never going to get to know somebody unless you have a conversation beforehand and get a gauge on what this person's like. Now, everybody's going to tell you that they're the most perfect candidate you've ever going to have, right? That's just the way they're going to try and get the job.
Absolutely.
And what people don't understand is, when we go through the interview process, we present you to the client. It's still up to them as to whether they're going to want to interview you or not, right? We can throw recommendations in there, like, we think this is the best candidate we've ever had. They may still not believe it. And we can only push so far before they're going to get frustrated with us and get mad. So we have to go with what the client wants. But the character thing for us is really, can the client work with this person? And we get those ideas because if it's, let's say they're replacing somebody that was fired, right? Okay, well, why did the other person get fired? Okay, what was the working relationship between the current manager and the person that was let go? And then what is the relationship between that manager and their manager? Because you have to define what the leadership style is. Because if it's somebody that has to be micromanaged, and you got somebody like me that hates to micromanage, that person is probably not going to work out, And again, it depends on different levels of jobs, but you test it based on what you pull out of the client, because we ask the client a lot of questions to get an idea of what the job is versus what we see on the job description, because there's always more, And I hope that answers your question.
It totally does. And it's probably the most important thing. And I like the way you put that. I mean, you didn't just say, why test character this way, blah, blah, blah. But again, looking at it from another thing, and I didn't mean to be insulting to anybody by the way I said that. But at the end of the day, you went back to looking at it from another angle. How does this person handle an environmental thing? That has something to do with character, how they would handle themselves in responding to that question. What's the best way to build accountability within a culture?
I want to put a little anecdote on that last one real quick before I jump into that one.
Yep, absolutely.
Standard procedure nowadays to go take a look at a candidate's online presence. So if you're going for a white collar job, I don't give a shit what your degrees are and your experience. If we go on your Facebook page and you're doing cocaine off a Corvette in a photo, it's a hard no, because we have so many horror stories.
Good point.
They get in there, they interview, it's all good, man. The culture fits, it's all awesome, can't wait, and then they fail a drug test, or all of a sudden, they got a felony because we do the background check. Even though you tell them from the very beginning, when the first question is, are you going to pass the drug test? Are you going to pass the background check? They always say yes because they think you're going to get the foot in the door. It's going to come out in the end. Same thing with ageism, right? That's a big deal right now. We have so many retirees that are coming back to the workforce because of our current economy, right? A lot of them try to hide how old they are, and it's heartbreaking to see. They don't put their photo on their LinkedIn profile, or they only have their resume go back to a certain date, or they don't list their graduation dates and that kind of stuff.
Wow.
I tell everybody that's fine, but you're still eventually, if you get far enough in the process, you're gonna have to sit down in front of the employer.
I never even thought about any of these things. I mean, this is the way the world is today. I haven't been in this part of the world. In other words, I don't remember the last time I had a paycheck. God, I can't remember, because my business I built up over 30 years, and before that it was a different business. But so that's a real thing, like you said, ageism and the which I knew about the social media stuff, because that's been around for a little while. People are like, knock that off, especially kids coming into the workforce, because you're never going to lose that. You're never going to lose that, right?
But if you're talking about, like, again, if you're an accountant and you want to get back in the workforce, that's a little bit easier than, I was a mechanic for 50 years, and it's like, well, can you climb a ladder up to the top of an oil tank? No, and it's just like, it's only, again, you got to be authentic, and just go with the flow, because you're going to get caught up.
All right. So
I missed that last one. Yeah.
Oh no, that was the one we just were. Oh no, that's right. I had it up there. Sorry, my bad. I was thinking you were finishing that up. What's the best way to build the accountability culture is what I was asking.
Accountability culture, and I've worked in a very specific place where they talked about accountability, but really all the CEO was interested in was placing blame. And that's a very close thing, depending on the culture, right? Who's accountable for this? Well, it's really, who can we blame for this, right? Yeah. So you have to understand what your overall culture is and understand what the accountability is on that. Now, if it's somebody that has, let's say, a sales job, they have to hit a certain KPI, right? That is very strict, my way or the highway. You have to do this because, again, all these other people are relying on you. To build the accountability culture is to empower people, whatever level that is, set those goals and help them get to the goals. Because, as I mentioned earlier, if I'm giving you a task and I just, a month later I'll check in, man, you better freaking have it or it's your ass. That is blame. That's not accountability, because you've shown no vested interest in what those people are doing. It's up to you as the leader, CEO, owner, to create that, and to build it by encouragement and then celebrating your wins, and then creating a culture where you can learn from the losses, whether it's yours or whoever's. In my experience.
I had that timing down perfect, and it didn't come up. Yeah, no, that was a great answer. I loved it. I mean, it's again, from the inside out, being authentic. People, I think, I don't know. I hope we get back to it, but I think there's too much of the world that what you said, even CEOs are looking to push the blame out to somebody else. And, that's the opposite way of leadership. And that's the opposite way of creating, the accountability culture. And in order to get rid of all of that, Clive Root here, that's a different pitch. Hey, Clive changed his picture. He's on here a lot. This guy, I only recognize one person out of the show today. What daily routine keeps you sharp as a CEO? That's a big deal right there. I think so.
Every CEO takes care of their mind, whether that's the day-to-day business or their reading books or podcasts and all that. Work on your body, man. That is what really. I have a very set fitness routine. Tomorrow night, I'm doing my very first High Rocks competition with my wife.
And first what?
High Rocks competition.
I don't know it.
It's an endurance race where, High Rocks, it's you run a kilometer, you do an event. Mine is pulling the weighted sled, then you run it again. I'm doing row. It's something that we do every Sunday. It's kind of like a casual thing in our gym. But It's my first fitness goal I've had in a very long time. To be able to do it with my wife, who's also a partner in the company, that's kind of a big deal. Work on your body, because if you're just sitting behind your desk and all of a sudden you got back problems, your kids are like, hey, throw the football with me, and you can't even do that. You're setting yourself and your future up for failure. Work on the body as well as working on your mind. For me, that's just cool.
I told you earlier I have a man crush on you, because every other statement is that we're on the same damn mission. I mean, there's a guy coming pretty soon. His name's he goes by Major. He's an assistant police chief here in Mango, but he does a lot of projects, and we have this Mangum 2030. It has 5 pillars. One of those pillars is your building muscle, is built. You've got to be able to show up. The way we put it is, let's say civic leadership. You got to be able to be healthy enough to show up. Meetings at 7:00 at night. You got to still be around. You got to be healthy enough to help a neighbor. What if you just can't help a neighbor because you're not physically there? And the older you get, the more, I believe, the older you get, the more important it becomes, because now you add to that tripping issues, right? I'm an old guy. I'm older now. I'm getting older we're all getting older I'm 63.
Okay. I just turned 52 last week.
Love it. Mm-hmm. But the older, and it's funny how your mind starts to shift about these things. Especially, I live in rural America now, which I want to. I did this on purpose. My kid, I don't know which way is north, but my kids are just over the border in Texas. They're not in Houston. They're further east. They're more closer to Dallas. Hold on, I got a sneeze coming. But oh shoot, say something. I'm going to get off this.
I'm regular, man. All right, hey.
Sorry, I set you up. I said say something. I want to get off the screen. I didn't want to sneeze. Coughing's one thing, but sneezing. So, as we continue to move forward with it, my kids are just over the border in Texas, and I've got one in California, and that's where my grandbabies are. So, life is really getting a lot better. And I don't remember how I started that off. I messed myself up with the sneeze. So let me get back to Jeff Lamb here. This is the one you were looking at earlier. Okay. What's the one leadership rule you never break?
Always be available. Always be available. We were on spring break. No, not last week, week before. I was in San Antonio with the fam. We were in Mexico the year before. My WhatsApp is always open. Clients, I don't give a crap what time of day or what I'm doing. I did 2 BD calls, one at SeaWorld in the middle of the day, and the other one was at the San Antonio Interactive Aquarium the next day. Because, again, I've got people relying on me as an owner and CEO. So being available, it doesn't matter if it's new clients, current clients, your people, your family, whatever it is, it's all cyclic. It all comes back around. And if you're that available in a very rounded way, your partners your kids, your family members are all going to see that. And then it comes back to things like meeting you and, hey man, people really want to know about your life, because people are going to start talking, you get referrals. Referrals are in this business and in any business are key to survival. You don't get referrals because you suck. You get referrals because you're a good dude. And that's what we rely on.
That is awesome. Hey, I need you to lean one way or the other right now. Read what he says. Come back and read what he says.
I was mesmerized to it. My wife just bought me this painting. And again, it's big.
Yeah, you said a local place. You said a local place.
Art thing.
You said it's like 4 feet tall or something.
It's 4 feet. You can't see because it's more up there. But I've got
but I see that it's right now. The bottom of the frame is right around your hip area or something, and
so
then
it's covering a window.
You're 6 foot something, aren't you? Didn't you say
6'3"? Yeah. So it's up higher to cover the window, but I'm going to sheetrock that eventually.
I have never once in the 600 episodes I've done, I have never once had anybody comment on something in the studio. That's pretty cool.
Dude, I mean, yeah, that's why I used to have other backgrounds. We have virtual backgrounds for client meetings and stuff.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
This would be.
I love that.
Immediate topic.
Obviously, that's a big hit for somebody to bring it up during the show. That's a big deal. Hey, Cooper Roofer, thank you very much. They're another one that's been very, very active here. I don't know if you know them as well. Do you suggest hiring a virtual professional for small business or even big business? And this is a good point here because the whole virtual professional is becoming more of a thing. And actually something I think is a really good potential direction for rural, not just overseas, rural communities and so forth, that virtual assessment, working for accounting firms, working for data entry firms, whatever that kind, there's a digital economy out there that Cooper Roofing this question has been on my mind quite a bit because there's a lot of things that are feasible now that weren't ever feasible. And you brought it up. COVID changed all of this.
Yeah. We have a virtual professional arm of Veda Ray. So Veda Ray.
Veda Ray, I did not know that. Okay, go ahead.
Veda Ray Recruiting, which is how we got our start. We have Veda Ray Engineering, which is project support for 1099 workers. Then we have Veda Ray Virtual, which is virtual professionals.
I knew the other two. I didn't know the virtual.
Yeah, that's the team that's in the Philippines. And when I talk to people, and this comes up a lot actually in podcasts, for you as a leader. And when it says, do you suggest hiring a virtual professional for small business or even big business? Don't think of it as your business. Think about it as you as a leader. What part of your day do you want to get back? How much time do you want to get back? And that's our tagline, get your time back. Because if I'm here doing social media postings, is that worth my time? Or is it me calling up, business proposals and stuff? Do I need to organize my own calendar, or can I pay somebody for it? It sucks to say that it costs less to hire a VP to organize your life than it is to hire a babysitter nowadays here in the US. It's getting your time back and getting a good team together that can accomplish the things that you want to get done as a whole. Now, I don't suggest going on Upwork and just willy-nilly trying to find people. I'm fortunate that I got introduced to a company, got introduced to some great people. And now we have partners in an office set up where if you come to us for your virtual professional, they're not going to go anywhere because we have a management team that's on the ground where it needs to be. So when it comes to, do you suggest?
I changed it.
I changed it. Since you mentioned about virtual professionals, hire I can hire one. Hey, man, go to VedaRayVirtual.com. You can go to Veda Ray.
Oh, wait. Hold on. That's one of the ones you have out there.
Yeah, VedaRay.com will have links to all the other companies. That's me.
Okay, so that's LinkedIn, which we do a lot on LinkedIn.
Yeah,
we're streaming out right now. We're streaming out to LinkedIn, YouTube, and Instagram.
That's awesome,
on this show. But Veda Ray, they can find that on your LinkedIn.
Yep, all the companies.
And you notice who's asking this?
Yeah, the ladies. The family from
Yeah.
Mhm.
So you mentioned about virtual professionals. How can we hire one from our business? Start over again. How did they contact you about that?
You just email us with questions. We'll put together a needs assessment of what you need. And again, it is literally everything from marketing, accounting, business development, sales, everything you need to get your business running. The key is to have a partner that has an organization set up, so you're not just relying on somebody that you may never even meet face to face. Which is why I'm always the point man for all of this stuff.
That is freaking awesome. I'm going to hit you with that. Read that out loud for me.
Love this talk, honestly. Thank you, Cooper.
You do see, that's the thing. That's the only thing about this show is you have to work.
Yeah.
You do have to do some work on the show. Let me move a couple things around here. Hold on. Let me get this over. So as you talk about that, is there anything that we missed? We're at an hour and 45 minutes, or 47 minutes actually now. That went by so fast. I love talking to you, dude. I mean, that was awesome. And the conversation was, it's obvious you do a lot of podcasts. You've got a good, it's great conversation. I mean, let's face it. Do guys ever really talk for 2 hours straight just about stuff? Very often.
Usually these are like 30-minute deals, or maybe 45.
So this is going to go just a little bit longer, because what I want you to do now is, I asked you earlier, if again, you got to work when you're on the show. You don't work for me, so it's your option.
Right.
But if you want to be a good partner here with us, what is it that again, now that I'm going to ask this question again, what is it you want to leave everybody with? As specifically one point, we've got your contact information here on the show, but what do you want to leave everybody with, and also what do you want to leave as a closing statement? Just what are those thoughts? Give me a couple minutes. I got to set up a couple things off stage. Would you give me that?
Yeah. So when it comes to Beta Ray companies, we're a support service and what we used to call in the Army a force multiplier for your business. We're as we talk about virtual professionals getting your time back as an owner of a company. When it comes to recruiting and providing 1099 support, or even virtual professionals, we're here to help you get your time back, get your budgets intact, no matter what that is. It could be oil and gas, data center development, whatever it is you need to do. We've done everything from financial services on down, wrench turners, as we call them, all the way up to executive level staff, C-suite type roles. We're here to help, and we're here to help you do it right. We're here to help you do it cheaper and do it faster. Our tagline for Beta Ray is cool name, amazing results. Those are both very true. But I just need you to understand we're surrounded by incredible professionals that will get all of this done in the cheapest amount of money and in the fastest time.
Yeah, and that's a very creative way and an interesting way to be able to run and not only run your business, grow your business, but now you're stepping into where the economy and where the direction of business is going. And hats off to you. Why don't you give everybody a big wave? I'll hang out for me. I'll meet you back in the green room. I'm going to wrap this baby up, and we'll talk back in a second. Do you have just say bye to everybody? Give them a big wave, and I'll talk to you in a second. What do you say,
guys? Thank you so much. Beta Ray Recruiting, Beta Ray Virtual, Beta Ray Engineering. Appreciate it.
You got it, brother. See you on the other side. All right, that was an awesome show, folks, and I really appreciate it. And right there, that's the difference. When you really think about things, that's the conversation. And if you really listen to what Darren just laid out, there is a thread that runs through everything he said. It's not motivation, it's standards. It's not hype, it's execution. And I think that's something that hits a nerve right now, especially with the audience we serve. Because the people watching this show, they're not looking for shortcuts or, they're looking for clarity. They're looking for structure and a way to actually perform at a higher level. Darren brought that today, from leadership under pressure. And again, thank you for your service, to hiring for character, to building teams that actually deliver. This is the kind of conversation you don't just listen to once. This is the kind of conversation you bring back to your team. Okay. So here's what I want you to do right now. Okay. If this resonated with you at all, share this episode with one person on your team. Okay. Start there. Send it to a business owner that you respect. Drop it into a group that's trying to level up right now, because this is how this grows, not through algorithms, through people. And if you're not already part of what we're building here, go to YouTube at Rodd Duff 1939, hit subscribe, watch a few episodes, because the episode, each episode gives you a moment, right? Gives you a moment. But with multiple episodes, it gives you a rhythm of what we're building here, within the arcs. We've also just got our Substack community exploding. We're going deeper there. We do Monday is Barbieisms. That's one angle to look. It kind of sets the week off and sets it straight. On Wednesday, we do poems and pages, different aspect of different subjects that we arc together, so to speak. And then Friday is when we do the Friday mic drop. So all these columns are tied directly into these conversations. I also do a column for the Mangum Star. This is an ecosystem, and it's growing for a reason. And Darren, I want to say this to you directly. This is the kind of conversation we need more of. Real leadership, real pressure, real execution. And I have a feeling people are going to be sharing this one. You saw it in the show, Darren, man. I mean, that was crazy. Anyway, people are going to are definitely going to be sharing this one. So if you stayed all the way through the end, you already know this one is one to pass along. This one is one to come back to. This one is to apply. And all right, everybody, until next time, keep building, keep leading, keep showing up when it really matters. We'll see you on the next episode of Insights and Straight Talk with Rodd Duff and producer Barbie. All right. I did that wrong. You'll see producer Barbie now.
Before you leave, if you'd like to watch another one of the podcasts, click the first link in the description. We love having you here, and we appreciate all your support.
And with that, producer Barbie and I are out. Leadership matters. Make it